Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and today I want to talk about the danger of jumping to conclusions. Now, this is especially important in podiatry and healthcare, probably in all aspects of life, is you should never jump to a conclusion until you have all the available information, until you've asked enough questions. Now, I'm going to give a couple of examples. I'm going to actually tell a story, something funny that happened to me in life to actually drive this point home, why you shouldn't jump to conclusions or the danger of doing it. And also something that actually happened in my podiatry clinic as well that I think is really important and really could have been bad for the patient if I had done what others had done previous by just jumping to a conclusion. So first, I want to talk about a particular golf story. Now, I'm not a great golfer, never have been, probably never will be, because I enjoy it, but I don't love the game like some people. So in my 30s, going back 20-something years ago, I was invited to a corporate golf day. Now, prior to that, I had played a few games of golf with some friends, and as far as I was concerned, I wasn't very good. I get to this corporate golf day, and it was with Channel 7, and the person who was organising the day yelled out to me, "Hey, Tyson, what do you normally shoot?" And I went, "Why?" He said, "We're trying to figure out which team to put you in." And there were about 3 or 4 teams there. So I yelled out, I said, usually around 90, I would say. Sometimes a little bit under, but usually about 90. And all of a sudden, these 3 or 4 teams are fighting to get me into their team. I'm like, oh, okay, that's unusual. I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, I get put into this person's team. It was someone from Channel 7. So they were trying to stack their team, probably with good golfers. But anyway, we're about to take off. Oh, we're taking off. And somebody yells out, "Hey, we'll see you on the 18th hole." And then I looked at the other players and said, "Oh, we're playing 18 holes today." And then I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. I've never played 18 holes of golf before." Now, the look on the faces in my team were like, "Oh my God, who have we just put in our side?" And they go, "What do you mean you've never played 18?" And I said, "I've only ever played 9. And they said, "But you shoot 90. I said, "Yeah, for 9. I said, and even then, they bring in the mercy rule after 10 shots. Once you get to 10 shots, they just say, "Tyson, just pick the ball up. We'll just put it down as a 10. And they were like, "Oh my God." Now, I didn't know what a good golf score was and what wasn't. And since then, I've actually done a little bit of research and found out that only 26% of golfers actually consistently hit 90 shots or below. 26%. And they reckon someone who does it on a really consistent basis usually separates the difference between someone who's a real amateur and someone who has a higher skill level. So when I yelled out, "I shoot 90, all of a sudden they looked at me and I also mentioned that sometimes it's underneath 90. I may have lied a little bit. But because they didn't ask enough questions, they just assumed when I said 90 that I was a fantastic golfer or I was pretty much above average or had a fairly high level of skill of playing golf. And they were trying to stack their team to win that day. Now, I will point out, they did not win that day. and I think the next year when I went back there, I don't think anybody wanted me in their team. However, I did actually go and have some golf lessons after that. I had a golf pro come into my clinic and I said, "Can we go and have a few lessons together?" We did. Tell you, this is the power of coaching, not just business coaching, but coaching in general, getting advice from someone who actually knows what they're doing. Because on the day when I was with these people and everyone's trying to give me advice, keep your head down, make sure you look up, do this with your feet, twist your shoulders. It was so confusing. I had no idea what I was doing. This golf pro just took me through some really simple steps, asked me questions, asked about my limitations, noticed some things that I did well, and he built on them. And he knows some things that I did bad that I could improve on. After 3 games, he took me from 90 shots for 9 holes down to about 60. And they reckon an average good golfer will hit somewhere between 110 to 120. So he'd actually, in 3 games, taken me down to being an okay sort of golfer. Now I want to get on to the danger of jumping to assumptions, conclusions, when you're a podiatrist in your podiatry business. Now, I had a patient that came in many years ago and he had heel pain. And he said to me, "Oh, I have heel pain. This is when it hurts." And I asked the usual questions. something just didn't sound right. And I said, have you had any treatment before? He said, yeah, I saw my doctor, saw my GP, told him what was going on. He said, see a podiatrist. So I went, okay, tick, that's good. I also was seeing a physio, and he gave me some taping to do and some exercises and a few other things. I saw the podiatrist. I've seen a couple of podiatrists. Some have made me orthotics. Some said you need to change your footwear. So I did all that. And I said, so you've seen doctors, seen your physio, you've seen a couple of podiatrists, you've had orthotics, you've changed your footwear, you've changed your activities, changed your work shoes. Nothing has made any difference. He said, not a thing. Well, okay. I said, but it doesn't sound right. I said, there has to be more going on. I said, when they did an x-ray, what did they find? And he said, oh, nobody's ever done x-ray, ultrasound, or sent me off for any tests. Well, okay, well, let's do that before we do anything else. So he goes off, gets the x-ray, he comes back. When he came back, he had a 4-centimeter tumor in his heel. Not supposed to be there, obviously. And when he was looking at the x-ray, he's going, oh, what's that? And we're reading, I showed him the report, read it out to him. He said, why has nobody sent me for an x-ray before? And I said, because everybody has just jumped to a conclusion. I said, they haven't dug deeper. And by asking a lot of questions, I could tell straight away it was not fitting the normal pattern that you expect with different types of heel pain. I think if you have younger podiatrists working with you, this is something you must drive home. Now, if you're watching this video and you're not a podiatrist, in any business where you're asking a customer, client, or patient a question or a number of questions, don't just take the first thing they tell you that is gospel, don't jump to a conclusion based on those first couple of questions. Dig deeper, dig as deep as you can. If they tell you one thing, ask more questions about it until you're 100% sure, or as close as 100% sure that you think you know what's happening. Then put the treatment plan or whatever it is that you do into play. Always review it and see what happens. And even when you're doing a review, ask more questions, because you may even say, for example, somebody got orthotics fitted and it might have been for heel pain, and they come back in. And the question you might ask is, okay, how is your heel pain going? And they might say, oh, there's no change. Yeah, okay. Now, a younger podiatrist might straight away start panicking, want to start adjusting the crap out of the orthotics, not sure what to do. They come to you, they start asking all these questions. But if they stop and ask the patient a few more questions, what do you mean by there's been no change? And then I say, well, when I get out of bed in the morning, it still hurts. Okay, that's fine. That can still happen for a period of time. Or at other times, it still hurts. Are you wearing the orthotics then? Oh, no. Do I have to wear them all the time? Yeah, they don't work when they're sitting on top of your fridge. This is the danger of just jumping to conclusions, not just when you're doing a diagnosis or asking those initial questions, but even when you're doing your follow-up visits, a number of follow-up visits. No matter, I think it's all areas of life. Never just jump to a conclusion. It can be really, really dangerous. I've seen people have arguments when somebody has said something and the other person has jumped to a conclusion of what they mean by that without digging deeper to find out what they mean. So I hope you get something from that. I hope you learn something from my golf story too, that 90 is actually a good score if you're playing 18 holes. It is a terrible score if you're only playing 9 holes. And if we're ever together at an event and you want to go and have a game of golf with me, just remember, I'm not very good, but I do enjoy it. And I always get better. Every time I play, I do get better. If you're enjoying these videos, please give it a thumbs up. I think the thumb's going to be on the side. Give it a thumbs up. Tell everybody these videos exist. Hit the bell icon so you'll be informed. Subscribe if you want to. And don't forget, go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, click on events and see what is coming up. I'll always try and have something planned into the future. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Love your feedback. There's a comment section underneath this video if you're watching it on YouTube. And please give us your comments. I'd like to know what you think. Okay, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.